Hello, Recapped Mystery here. Today, I'm going to explain an action, horror, thriller film, Aftershock. Watch out and take care. In their pickup, a father and his children are sitting. The youngsters notice a dragonfly and subsequently notice that there are many more dragonflies nearby. Many of those present notice an unusual number of dragonflies that continue to arrive. When the children inquire as to why there are so many dragonflies, their father speculates that there may be a storm approaching, causing the dragonflies to migrate from their home and seek a new home. Then, a woman named Liu Ani rides a bicycle, followed by her husband, Fang Daking, and their twin children, Fang Deng and Fang Da, who arrive in the truck. Fang Da stops the truck, and they all get out. He instructs his children to enter the house and inform their mother that he has returned to the factory to work. He also provides them money to buy meals for themselves. Fang Da goes out and spends the money his father just handed him. When a bully sees him buying food, he rushes over, takes the food from his hands, and flees. While he flees, Fang Da's brave sister begins to pursue the bully. She pushes the bully, which causes him to tumble. The bully becomes enraged and begins to pursue them. She snatches her brother and begins to flee. She tells him to run as fast as he can so that the bully cannot catch up with them. A swarm of the bully's friends begins to pursue them. They eventually beat the bully and return home. They rush inside their house, despite their mother's warnings not to. They live in Tangshan in a modest flat. Before their mother can question them about why they were fleeing, they tell her that their father had purchased them a fan. They set up the fan as she tells them to be careful not to injure themselves. They turn on the fan, stand in front of it, and enjoy the cool breeze. The children then play with their father when he returns home. They draw a watch on his other hand, which does not have one. Both of them ask their mother for a tomato, but she only has one left. She assures her daughter that she would buy her a tomato the next day, and then they both go to bed. They go outdoors after putting their children to bed and make love in the back of their truck. An earthquake occurs unexpectedly, causing buildings to tumble and disintegrate. While they get out of the automobile, everything begins to shake violently. They are bewildered and try to figure out what is going on. They later learn that it is an earthquake and that they have left their children inside the house, which could collapse on them at any time due to the tremendous earthquake. They exit the truck and begin to flee back to rescue their children. The earthquake strengthens and does not abate. Buildings are destroyed as people flee in the hope of saving their lives, only to be crushed by falling debris. The youngsters awaken and scream for assistance. They are both terrified and begin to phone their parents for assistance. The walls begin to fracture, yet their home remains intact. A hole appears in the ground, and people fall into it. A man attempts to save his life by jumping out the window, but he is crushed under the rubble. During the destruction, everyone dies, but Fang Li survives, and they continue to try to preserve their lives. They notice a massive, unsteady crane. Fang yells out loud that the crane will fall, but everyone panics and flees. The crane lands right on top of both of them, but they jump and survive. The earthquake continues, and the demolition continues. Buildings are collapsing and people keep dying, but they manage to survive. Lee notices their daughter on the balcony when they arrive home. She calls for her mother, hoping that she will save her, because the small girl had no choice but to yell for aid because they were terrified. Lee screams at her and tells her that she is on her way to rescue her life when she notices another massive crack just near to the balcony where her children are standing. She becomes very emotional and begins to sprint towards the building. Fang grabs her arm and pulls her back, protecting her from a large chunk of falling debris. Fang becomes upset as well, wanting to save his children. He keeps racing towards the building and eventually enters. However, the structure collapses, causing him to be crushed and killed by falling debris. Their apartment block collapses, trapping their children beneath a pile of rubble. Many individuals in the aftermath of the earthquake feel fortunate to have survived such an earthquake, but they also shout and cry at the same time for the loved ones they have lost forever. People bring the dead bodies out and grieve while looking at their loved ones. Some people, still in denial, try to dig up the wreckage in the hopes of finding their family underneath it. Lee also visits the rubble pile beneath which her children were buried. She sees a face for the first time, and a ray of hope appears. She tries to retrieve them from the rubble, hoping they will escape this natural but awful calamity. While she is relieved to have found her children, another aftershock from the earthquake leads her children to sink much deeper and become imprisoned. She becomes quite concerned, but a group of individuals working as a rescue team, removing victims from the wreckage, chooses to assist her. This rescue squad located her children and attempted to extract them. Lee promises them she will go to whatever length to help them get her children out of there. They investigate and inform Lee that her twins are imprisoned beneath a massive slab of concrete. They tell her that if they raise the slab of concrete from one side, the other child will be crushed since it is far too heavy. They claim that doing it the other way would crush the other youngster. They tell her that raising the slab in any way will kill one of her children, thus she can only save one of them. She asks if there is another way, and begs them to save both of her children, but they remind her of the circumstances and that she must pick between her daughter and her son. She keeps crying and pleading with them to find another method since she has to save both of her children. She begs them, but they tell her to hurry up and make a decision since they can't hear her, and if she doesn't, both of her children will perish. They guess that they could previously hear the children but cannot now, implying that she must make a decision quickly in order to preserve at least one of them. Lee, who is distraught, decides to save her son. Fang Deng, the girl, survives and later regains consciousness, only to discover herself among multiple dead bodies. Fang Deng, who is assumed to be an orphan, is adopted by a military couple, Wang Deqing and Donglin, who bring her back to their home in Beijing. After adopting her adoptive father's surname, she is renamed Wang Deng. 10 years later, she leaves home to attend a university in Hangzhou, where she meets a graduate student, Yang Zi, and begins an intimate connection with him. Fang Deng's adoptive mother falls gravely ill when she is in her 3rd year. Before dying, she requests that Fang Deng use the money they have accumulated to locate her biological family. Fang Deng quickly discovers that she is pregnant, despite Yang Zi's urging to have an abortion. She refuses and discreetly drops out of university, loses contact with Yang, and does not return home. Wang Deqing meets with Yang Zi and blames him for Fang Deng's departure. Meanwhile, Fang Da's grandmother and aunt invite him to live with them in Jinan, but he eventually returns to Tangshan with his mother. The earthquake had taken away his left arm, leaving him physically crippled. Despite his mother's insistence, Fang Da decides not to take the National Higher Education Entrance Examination and begins working as a cycle rickshaw driver, where he unknowingly gives a ride to Fang Deng's adoptive father, and eventually becomes the boss of a successful travel agency in Hangzhou. Dian, his son, is the result of his marriage. Fang Deng returns 4 years later with her daughter, Dian, to reunite with her adoptive father. She apologizes and makes amends with him. On Lunar New Year's Eve, she informs her adoptive father that she would marry a foreigner and move to Vancouver with her daughter. Fang Deng witnesses the Sichuan earthquake on television in 2008. She quickly volunteers to help the rescues and returns to China. Fang Da has also agreed to assist in the rescue efforts. Fang Deng overhears Fang Da discussing the Tangshan earthquake while taking a break and recognizes he is her long-lost twin brother. They decide to pay a visit to their mother after reuniting with her brother. Fang Deng is first unhappy with her mother for abandoning her. She eventually forgives her mother after recognizing her mother's grief, emotional suffering, and guilt. The screen cuts to a stone memorial in Tangshan with the names of the earthquake victims. The end. Please subscribe to assist the channel, turn on notification and leave a like. Thank you for taking the time to watch. See you again soon.